Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn, and really got kind of a fun story to share with you today. It deals with some children that are going through serious things, but somebody saw a need and they have stepped out in faith, and it's amazing how many children have been blessed since Sweet Blessings started. And the founder of Sweet Blessings is with me today, and that is Ashley Gann. Ashley, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I know what Sweet Blessing Cakes is, but no, some people may not. So tell us a little bit about what is Sweet Blessings.
Sweet Blessings, we're not a bakery. We don't sell cakes. We don't do anything like that. Sweet Blessings is a nonprofit ministry located here in Central Kentucky. And all we do is make unforgettable birthday cakes, custom-made cakes for children who are living in poverty, have a life-threatening illness, or special needs, all in order to help them feel special and loved on their special day. And of course, we love them because Christ first loved us.
You know, I love the Bible. It talks about having childlike faith and about how much Jesus, when the children would come to him, and sometimes the disciples like, hey, get away. And Jesus like, no, let the children come.
Absolutely.
And so, Jesus really, really valued children. And yet, what are you go to culinary school or what? I mean, what happened here? All this baking? Talk to us.
Well, actually, I have a master's degree in public health, and I worked in substance abuse prevention for about 15 years. About 7 or 8 years in, I thought I'd go back to school and get a doctorate. And the big, long story, I'll say for another time. But really, God just led me in a different direction. He put cakes in my life, and I didn't know why. And it took a few years, which included moving back to Kentucky, going to culinary school, and then dropping out of culinary school. And really, God put cakes in my life so that I could use that to reach out to children and families.
Well, share just a little bit about that, if you will, because, I mean, it's an amazing story to where you're at now. So you go from working in public health, you've got a master's degree in it, then you step out and go to culinary school. And God's put cakes in my life, but it's on the consumption side.
Oh, so well, yeah.
I'm really good at consuming cakes, but what caused the desire for you to start doing this? What happened? There had to be like a moment where you're like, okay, God called me to do this. Share that with us.
It really started, I was stressed out about the possibility of going back to school. And I was watching TV, and there was this story about what was called vocation vacations. So you take a week off of work, and you go do some other kind of job you thought would be really cool. Like, oh no, public health, that's it, that's all I want to do. And I was like, oh, I'll make cakes. It was really like God threw a brick from heaven and hit me in the head. And so I started looking online, looking up cakes. I took a class, really kind of became obsessed with cakes a little bit. But really got that feeling that God put cakes in my life for a reason. And so my husband and I, we prayed about it and weren't really sure what it was. Then ended up moving back to Kentucky. I'm from Frankfort, grew up there. My mom still has the same house since before I was born, but I was living in South Carolina because I got my master's at the University of South Carolina, where I met my husband, had my kids. And so we kind of thought that maybe God put cakes in my life to get me to move back to Kentucky, because I moved back here and went to culinary school. It's like, okay, I wasn't going to come back if I didn't really have something fun and exciting to come back to do. You know how that is?
Yeah, it's just Kentucky. I mean, just family.
It's my family, but I wasn't going to get a good job like I had. There was no way, because I had a great job with great people. It's like, okay, God knew I would need something exciting, something fun to come back to. So he's put cakes in my life for that reason. And I went to culinary school for 3 quarters, and then I was offered a public health job. That was they created this job from my resume. And I had 2 preschool age kids. You got to pay the bills, all that good stuff. So I left and I took that job. And for about a year, I didn't make cakes at all. And then my daughter had a birthday, and I made her a cake. And people started talking to me about cakes again. And my husband was like, really? Okay, God, we thought we had this figured out. We thought the whole deal with cakes was to get us to move. But it wasn't. So after about another couple of years, I left my job and went to work in a cake shop over wedding season. And we promised the owners that I would stay there for 6 months, for wedding season, and we promised ourselves that we'd really pray like never before. Like, okay, really, what is this all about, God? Because by then it was just like, you just could not deny that this was a God thing going on. We just didn't know what the end looked like, right? Mm-hmm. So about 3 months into working at this cake shop, I realized I had never been more miserable in my life. It wasn't the job, it wasn't the people I worked with, but what it was, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Making a $400 birthday cake for a 4-year-old, it's fine, but it wasn't what touched my heart. But I really started feeling God speaking to me and telling me I needed to spend more time making a difference and less time making a living. And then a few months later, we were in church and the pastor was talking about inner city outreach in downtown Lexington. And it just clicked. I knew that I was supposed to use cakes to reach out to children and families. And so I never decided to start Sweet Blessings. There was never a grand vision of what this was going to be. It's just every day I woke up and took the next step and just kind of God took it from there.
All right, so let me recap if people are listening, because I think a lot of people are like, God, what do you want me to do with my one and only life? And they're trying to process that. I know I've gone through a lot of seasons of that myself. And so it started South Carolina. You see this program, TV program, and you're like, wow, I'd really like to do something like that with cakes. Then you move back to Kentucky. And you start going to culinary school, and yet you get this great job offer that was, like you said, a tailor-made position. So it's not cakes. So there's some kind of detours, for lack of a better term. You got to pay the bills, make a living, and totally relate to that. Then you make a birthday cake for your daughter, and you get several words of affirmation. People saying, that's really good.
Absolutely,
you should do more of that. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So the reason I have you recap that, one, in case people turned in late, but secondly, I think that so many times people say, I want to do that, and yet they think it's going to be really clear on how, this desire, this purpose that God maybe has put in their hearts or for their one and only life. But yet I found at the age of 53, I know if you look on the website, you probably think I'm 43, but hey, it wasn't funny, Ashley. But, I've taken a lot of detours to get there, and I think, we live in a microwave society and people want it instantly, but I found that God's more in the crock pot business. It takes its time, and I think we all can agree that something tastes better, it's coming out of the crock pot than something you throw in the microwave for 30 seconds. So I say all that to encourage somebody, if you're following a dream, maybe a passion that you feel like God's placed that in your heart, and I want to remind you, the Bible says if you delight yourself in the Lord, you will have the desires of your heart. But we got to get that first part right. Delight yourself in the Lord. And the one thing I've learned is that God's timing is not always our timing. And
absolutely.
If I'm sitting where you're sitting, Ash, I got to be honest, if you go to culinary school and you moved all the way from South Carolina, I kind of would have been like, okay, God, what's going on here? Did you ever have that moment? Or
yeah, it was also kind of crazy because it was never really a very clear path. We took the next step and we thought that was what God wanted, and it ended up all being wrong. However, so much of, that whole journey, I see God's hand in it. Of course, you know what they say, hindsight is 20/20. But like when I worked in public health, I worked in substance abuse prevention, mostly with youth, primarily alcohol prevention. When I got my public health job here in Kentucky after I left culinary school, I was actually kind of like the state's expert on underage drinking prevention. But the field that I was in, I worked a lot with schools. I worked a lot with, grant writing and funding and pulling together people in a community, all to work toward a common goal. And so a lot of those skills that I used and I developed in the public health field, I use now. And a lot of the children, not all, but a lot of the children we serve, their families are in difficult situations because of substance abuse. So it could be that there's incarceration, which goes back to substance abuse. We've had children, more than one, who've had a parent die of heroin overdose. So the stories of children and what in our society, in our community, and what they go through are things that most people could never believe. But you know what? None of it surprises me because of where I come from in my background from substance abuse prevention, that I understand that. and I also understand how to work with communities and groups all together toward a common goal. So I see how God put all this together.
Well, I love that story, and I think, once again, it's encouraging. If you just tuned in, we're talking with Ashley Gann. She is the founder of Sweet Blessings. If you want to check out their website, it's really cool. It's called sweetblessingcakes.org. It's a nonprofit. Just really cool how they bless children with just not just any birthday cake, but a phenomenal, just like, wow, I want to have one of those type of birthday cakes. So I want to encourage you to go check out that website, sweetblessingcakes.org. But Ashley, just recapping there what you said, you know, I love how God, I heard a pastor say many years, God never wastes a hurt. But
Absolutely.
I also love Jeremiah 29:11, and a lot of people are familiar with that. But, you know, it says, for I know the plans I have for Ashley, declares the Lord, plans to prosper Ashley,
Right.
plans to give her a hope and a future. And I say your name instead of the word you, because I believe that the Bible is God's love letter to us from Genesis to Revelation. God is pursuing us, and I'm a little slow, so God had to put the word plans 3 times in the verse. And I bring that up because, you know, God had a plan for Sweet Blessings.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it didn't come just immediately. So for some of you right now, you're just saying, God, okay, I really thought I heard you on this, but it's not quite working out. But I love how God used that job that you had after you left culinary school to help you some of the skill sets you learned in that to help create this. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think God knew that I was not going to jump off a cliff. You know, even if he may have wanted me to, he knew me. He knows me that well.
Right.
Say, I need to take her through baby steps.
Right.
And to get her where I want her to be. And as long as I trusted him, he was going to take me through those steps to get exactly where he wants me to be in this part of my life.
Well, I love that, because some people say, well, I don't have enough faith. I don't know that that's necessarily true. It's just sometimes it's just taking one step at a time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, you're trying to figure out, you know, how to get from here to Florida, like you're going to get there in, 1 hour, and
you got to go through Tennessee, you know.
Exactly. Georgia, you usually maybe spend the night somewhere. Sometimes you go though. But my point being, for some of you, I just know there's somebody listening today that you've lost hope about a dream, maybe a desire God's put in your heart. But he is working right now, and I heard Henry Blackaby in Experiencing God Bible Study I've done 3 or 4 times throughout the past 20 years, and one of his spiritual marks he talks about, instead of asking God to join you in and bless what you're wanting to do, ask God, show me where you're working. Let me join you in that. Does that kind of relate
ask
to what
God
you're saying?
to just like speak to your heart and tell you what he wants. Because instead of him, like you said, coming to you and saying, oh yeah, I'm going to bless what you want. No, ask him to change your heart and make what you want what he wants. Because, you know, that is ultimately better than we could come up with. I never, ever in a million years would have thought of doing this, you know, ever.
Right,
but, you know, God's plan is amazing. And he just, if you're willing and you have the faith of a mustard seed, faith to take that first step, he will work it all out.
All right, just one quick question. We got to wrap up. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow, though. How many kids have you served with cake so far in just this short time?
Sure. Our first year was 163. Last year was 2,730. Over 11,000 total.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Well, I want you to stay with us. We're going to hear more about Sweet Blessings. Tomorrow, we're talking with Ashley Gann, the founder of Sweet Blessings. I want to encourage you to go check out that website. It's sweetblessingcakes.org. That's sweetblessingcakes.org. I'm Greg Horn. Tune in tomorrow as we continue our conversation with Ashley Gann on Hope is Here.
CMI is your full-service human resources provider in Central Kentucky. For 15 years, CMI Human Resources has taken great pride in helping organizations and people work. Whether it's employee handbooks or help in filling a position, no job is too large or too small for CMI. Contact the professionals today at CMI Human Resources, 859-296-2800, or online at cmiconsulting.com.